Hello, 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 hello. Oh man, feels good. Let me pin this comment here. Oh yeah, I got a little comment pinned here, guys, for you. Let's make sure my volume's good. Hello, hello, hi there. I'm gonna wait a couple minutes to let as many people join as possible before I dive into some information about myself, about my work, my cookbook, my next cookbook. We're gonna get into all that. You know what I'm saying? I want y'all to hit me up with some questions. I know y'all digging the hat. You already know your boy's coming through super strong with the hat game. I appreciate that. I already see some questions coming in about my starter ratio. You know. So obviously very thankful for the James Beard Foundation to include me here. The idea of allowing people like myself to talk about the work that I do is very I'm very thankful for that. So we are going to start talking about a little bit of my history. If you don't know who I am, my name is Bryan Ford. You can catch me on Instagram at Artisan Bryan. Once again, you know what I'm saying? The hat game is super strong. I appreciate it. Y'all are cracking me up with the comments. Oh man, y'all got some interesting comments coming in right now. Artisan Bryan, you can catch me on Instagram. You can catch my blog, artisanbryan.com, for sourdough bread recipes. And of course, my book, New World Sourdough, it was just published last summer. If you haven't had a chance, if you are getting into baking bread, I definitely would recommend it because I wrote it. All right, so, I'm from New Orleans. I just want to give you guys a little quick background about how I got to where I'm at and what exactly the type of work that I do is, what's the inspiration for it. I started off as a cook. I started off in New Orleans cooking, prepping food, and I kind of migrated into the baking world. I like baking a lot better. It's more relaxing. I found a lot of therapy with that. I started making king cakes, selling king cakes in the streets during parades. Hat game strong. Appreciate that. Hat game is critical right now. I started making king cakes, started refining my skills as a cook, as a baker throughout the years. I did end up becoming an accountant, a CPA. I had a professional career going in that, but on the side I was kind of honing this craft. The artisan baker mind was kind of swirling. So, I ended up creating this blog. I moved to a different city. I started working at different bakeries and started, I had some opportunities to continue working as a head. This is great. Is Lawrence Fishburne your father? Man, I love it. Y'all is killing it right now with the comments. I had opportunity to continue working as a head baker for a big bakery, and there were some delays in the process. So I created this blog, which is now artisanbryan.com. I put up some recipes using my sourdough starter. I was just trying to mess around. I'd been initially only baking baguettes, only baking croissants, only baking ciabattas, and kind of the traditional European style bread. And one day, my mom was actually visiting me, and she wanted some pan de coco, which is a coconut bread. So I ended up using my sourdough starter to make that, and I posted some content about it, and a lot of people were very interested in making that bread with sourdough, and hearing about it was very different for a lot of people. So it kind of turned in, it kind of just happened by chance, using sourdough to create bread that's from a different culture like Latin America, like Honduras. really piqued the interest of a lot of people, most notably myself. I kind of really, as a baker, got into my groove about the type of bread that I want to stand for and the type of bread that I want to write about and the type of bread that I want to make. So, that kind of evolved into this first book proposal. New World Sourdough, it happened pretty quickly. It happened, at the beginning of 2019 is when I started working on the book. And then it was published last summer. And so, the idea, the inspiration of this book is to kind of make sure that the types of bread that you find in Latin America, the type of bread that you find in countries like Honduras, like Mexico, those breads, all right, these baked goods and pastries also have a seat at the table. I'm also very inspired just, by the things that my mom used to cook for me, the tortillas, the pastelitos and empanadas that she used to make. Very, very delicious, and I just have started to, ask questions about why, when you think about artisan bakeries, why aren't we thinking about more countries than just kind of that Western European style? So, that's kind of the inspiration for New World Sourdough. There's a little bit of a New Orleans twist in there as well. I got the New Orleans French bread recipe, the pecan praline monkey bread, the bananas Foster sourdough, but primarily, the influence of Latin American flavors, like, in pan de agua from Puerto Rico, Cuban muffins, which is just like a play on pan cubano. So basically English muffins with Cuban bread dough. Plátano and quinoa, using that in a rustic loaf, using coconut, pan de coco, different types of pan de coco. I've got that cocoa rug broad recipe, which is kind of a play on like a Danish sourdough. So there's a lot of, that's kind of, and at the same time, if I could talk about, this first book that I made, it's almost as if it's just like the warm-up. It literally is the warm-up. So just to kind of get into my next project very briefly, I can't say too much, but I can say that I do have a second book that's going to be on the way in a couple years. It's going to take a little bit longer to craft this book, to kind of generate these recipes and do the types of research that is necessary for this book to come to life. But it's going to focus on the baking traditions of Latin America and, trying to feature every country's traditions in terms of baking. Also, the Caribbean countries as well, Cuba, your Dominican Republic, your Puerto Rico, incorporating the culture and flavor from everywhere in Latin America. Mexico, very, very strong baking culture here. Very, very interesting and unique recipes. So it's gonna be an excellent book. It's a big project, and that's what I'm working on right now. So I can share that little bit of info with you guys. And over time, you can kind of follow along in the next year and a half to see the progression and the types of things that I'm going to be experimenting with and writing about. So, I also want to kind of share a few recipes that are significant just to my life in general. I already talked about, sourdough pan de coco. That's obviously one of the biggest and most impactful recipes in that's happened to me in my life, because it's the recipe that kind of allowed me to get a seat at the table at this point and become an artisan baker that is allowed to kind of write about different types of baked goods. So, and I'm Honduran, my parents are from Honduras, so pan de coco is it's when you're eating a nice sopa, you're eating something, it's a dense little roll. Traditionally it's dense. You dip it in your soups, you have it on the dinner table, you can buy it in the street. Coconut is just so abundant in Latin America that traditionally pan de coco was made in wood burning ovens, and they were unleavened. Europeans came, they learned this tradition. I believe they then brought that tradition to the Philippines, so that's why you'll see Filipino people also eating pan de coco. Theirs is a little bit different. So there's a lot of history, there's a lot of culture, a lot of knowledge and things to learn, a lot of deliciousness as well. Another recipe that's very significant is tortillas de harina. Harina means flour in Spanish. So, tortillas are something that I grew up with. Just my mom making them. She makes them with coconut milk. They are absolutely delicious. I think tortillas are super, super important in the way that I grew up, in the way that I kind of appreciate and understand food. Tortillas have been a very, very big factor kind of in that realm. So the next recipe that's kind of significant is, just not classifying one specific recipe, but just using naturally leavened bread techniques in general. Just, your general sourdough baking is definitely significant to my life, because it's changed the way that I make bread, it's changed the way that I bake, it's changed the way that I eat, it's changed the way that I look at things. And just sourdough bread in general, it's very versatile. I don't think that you can pigeonhole the concept of sourdough, and I think that happens quite often. So that's kind of like a rundown on recipes that are very important to my life. We're talking about the inspiration for my book. We're talking about the second book project, how I got started, kind of going into this. I'm like just kind of full steam ahead right now, learning as much as I can, writing about as much as I can, creating as much as I can. Keep your eyes on my page, on my blog, and you're going to see a lot of very interesting things coming to light. So I know there are a ton of questions that you guys have already kind of thrown here into the comments. So yeah, I will open up questions. I'll start attacking these questions. I know that they're mostly sourdough based. I will be as thorough as possible. Got about 15 more minutes here, so we can just kind of crush that. But if you have any questions about my book, if you have any questions about my work on the blog, what you can find on the blog, I also do online workshops. I've got a video series that matches my book that you can find on my website, and it shows some in-depth video instruction to the techniques of making a sourdough starter, the techniques of making rustic bread, and a few other recipes, very in-depth. They're about 30-minute videos. You'll get a lot of information from those, so you can check out that video companion series if you are interested in seeing some really, really hands-on and a little bit more technical sourdough baking instruction from me based on New World Sourdough. So check that out. It's all on artisanbryan.com. So I'm going to start diving into these questions. There's quite a few of them. Please talk please talk about hydration percentages. It constantly confuses me. Do you have an easy explanation? Yeah, I have an easy explanation. I think what's funny is if you do have my book, you'll notice I don't think I use the word hydration in my book. I don't know that I use it. I hope I don't use it on my blog. If I do, I got to go change that. I am not really a big proponent in, all hydration. What does it mean? In your day-to-day life, you need to drink water. You need to hydrate yourself. You just need to intake water. So hydration, we're just talking about how much water is in your dough. It's become this kind of trend on the internet, on social media to have high hydration and just talk about it. And, when people started making bread thousands of years ago, I doubt the conversation they were having was about how much water was in the bread, what was the higher hydration. I think what was happening is you have these villages that were discovering that you can, cook or bake, this mixture that has fermented. You can watch, there's something on Netflix, there's a show called Cooked, and the episode is air. They've got, this is kind of where people think this kind of all started in Morocco, somewhere in Africa, North Africa. You got this bowl of porridge that was forgotten about, and it just started fermenting, and someone cooked it, and then from there they realized, this is something that can sustain and nourish us, bread. So, people back in the day, back in the day, were making bread to nourish their communities, to nourish themselves. So, the idea that now you have to worry about, and that's the thing, I use the word worry. A lot of people are genuinely the messages, questions I get, they're worried about the hydration level of their bread. And I'm like, listen, it's just bread. And I would say before I will answer your question, by the way, I will give you the technical approach. I wish I had a whiteboard. I could, but it's just bread. So try not to worry too much about hydration. If you're reading a recipe that's overly emphasizing things that are confusing you, my recommendation would be to just stop, just put flour, water, salt, and your starter into a bowl, mix it up, and then leave it there. That's like that one sentence right there is all you really need to do. All right. Now, if you want to nerd out, if you do want to kind of get into that realm, the easiest way to deal with the percentages, your baker's percentages, you start with your amount of flour. Okay. If I'm making 2 loaves of bread, I'm gonna have 1,000 grams of flour, 1 kilo of flour. Okay. Ultimately, if you check my recipes in my book or blog, I'm usually running somewhere between 700 and 750 grams of water total in my bread. All right, so I've got a kilo of water, 1,000 grams. I've got, let's just say 700 grams of water. All right, when I add that 700 grams of water, if you do the math, 700 divided by 1,000 is, you're at 70%. That's really all it means. It's just measuring the percentage of water in your dough. 700 grams to 1,000, I'm at 70% hydration. 750 to 1,000, I get to 75% hydration. So the obsession becomes when people want to, I'm at 80%, I'm at 85%, I'm at 90. I've seen people 99% hydration, and it's like this crazy soup situation that's very elastic. And the problem with that is that people that are trying to learn how to bake from scratch for the first time at home, because the internet is such a fast moving place for information, that kind of mentality gets put into the forefront of people just trying to nourish their families, and then these insecurities start to set in about, oh man, I don't make bread with enough water. What am I doing wrong? Or my bread doesn't have, when I cut it open, I don't see all the big holes. What am I doing wrong? And the question that you have to start asking yourself is not what you're doing wrong. The question you have to ask yourself is, why are you baking bread in the first place? So if you're baking bread with the sole objective to get the big holes in your crumb, or to get to achieve 90% hydration, if that's your sole purpose, that's fine. I'm not, do your thing. But I suspect that a lot of you are not really trying to do that. It's starting to happen like inadvertently. It's like you're just trying to make bread, but then you're worried because you're not putting enough water in it. So just take it easy. You know what I'm saying? Put some water in a bowl with your starter, with some flour, mix it up, add some salt, add a little bit more water, mix it up, and then leave it there. And you can do the stretch and folds if you want, or you could just leave it. Later on, you can shape it and you can bake it. That's literally how you make bread. So keep that in mind. I know that was a little bit long-winded on the question, but I did hit a few points, and I did hit a few of the other questions that I'm seeing come up. So I'm going to move on to a different question. Thank you for that one. I hope that I answered to the best of my abilities. Let's see here. Just got your book, but is sourdough the same as masa madre? Yes, masa madre is a Spanish way of saying sourdough. There's so many different ways to say it, but yes, when you say masa madre, we're talking about sourdough. So that is that question there. How long do you keep sourdough discard? I've been keeping it in the fridge and want to make those biscuits you made this weekend. So your discard, it's just extra starter that you're not feeding. You can, in theory, keep it for as long as you'd like, as long as it doesn't smell really bad or start to grow mold or start to grow, that they call that kind of hooch situation on top. It's that funky yellow liquid or that funky black liquid. As long as you're not encountering any of that, you can kind of keep your discard going for as long as you want. And really, the whole point of using sourdough discard is to not waste, to not have waste. You don't want to throw away your flour and water mixture. So that's the point. And the thing is that it adds a really unique flavor to a lot of different types of things, like biscuits or donuts or crackers or pancakes, waffles, whatever it is that you want to make. Things that don't need to have that really big oven spring, that really big pop. Although to be fair, like I make donuts with sourdough discard and they come out super light and airy. So that's a really good recipe if you're looking for one. So yeah, if you're keeping your discard in the fridge, you should be fine to just mix it directly from the fridge or let it warm up, come up to room temperature. What's the best bread to start baking with sourdough? Probably a bread, I mean, just your basic rustic bread, just one that you don't need to add other ingredients in. If you don't have experience making enriched breads like brioche and, but pan de coco, like coconut bread, it's got, 4 or 5 ingredients, shredded coconut, coconut milk, sugar, a little bit of sugar, flour, a little water, and salt. So, and that one, honestly, you mix it in a bowl, you knead it, and then you don't have to do anything else after that. You mix everything at the same time. You don't need to really worry about adding the salt after, and that's because, you can, but you're not going to have that big of a problem. You're not really looking for, we're not trying to incorporate too much water into that dough. So adding the salt, you just add it there. There's no more water going into it. Everything hydrates itself. Very simple. But honestly, yeah, I'm not gonna pretend that just your basic, just like a basic table bread, pan casero, in Spanish we call it pan rústico, all right, or country sourdough, as you might know it. Flour, water, and salt. Very simple. That's the best way to go. I definitely recommend, if you're making bread for the first time, keep your water low. Don't worry about adding so much water. Make a dough that you can handle. Make a dough that feels good to you. Make a dough that's comfortable. Make a dough you can knead. Make a dough that you're comfortable with. And over time, as you cultivate your craft, as you become a better baker, as you bake more and experience more with baking, you're going to be able to experiment with having silkier, smoother, hydrated doughs that can allow you to maybe get bread that's a little more airy on the inside. But if you're just starting out, literally, if today is like the first day you're making bread, just put 500 grams of water. I'm sorry, not 500 grams of flour. 250 to 300 grams of water. 100 grams of your starter, your leaven, and a little bit of salt. That's going to be very simple. Knead it up in a bowl, let it rise 4 hours. Shape it, let it proof for 3 more hours, and then put it on a hot pizza stone or in a hot cast iron and just bake it, and that's it. So the key to baking really good bread for the first time is also understanding, if you want to make sourdoughs, also understanding your sourdough starter and making sure that your sourdough starter is healthy and fed regularly and being used at the right point. If you don't know much about how to use your starter at the right point, just again check out the blog. I've got a really long sourdough guide. There's info in the book. There's info everywhere for you to kind of step by step understand when it's time to use that sourdough starter. Let's see. Well, I post this on YouTube. I won't post this on YouTube, but this video will be posted on the Beard Foundation account. When is your next book coming? 1.5 years to go. I can't say much in any kind of official capacity, but just like I said, follow along the journey in this next year or so, in this next 1.5 years, in the next couple of years. Just follow along. You're gonna see really exciting stuff. Let's look down to see if there's some more questions here. If you were a bread, what would you be and why? I don't know why I decided to pick that question, because I don't know how to answer it. If I was a bread, come on, man, you already know I would be choco pan de coco. I'm that chocolate coconut bread. You know what I'm saying? You got that in the book. That's the bread I would be. Someone there is doing the math on the hydration. That's great. Lots of positive things. How long do you keep a starter in general? You can keep your sourdough starter for as long as you want or for as little as you want. There's no real time frame. It's all about keeping it healthy, feeding it with good flour, feeding it and keeping it maintained in a perfect way. I see someone here, Mexico Diary, tortillas with flour and coconut milk, with the mind blown. Yeah, I mean, listen, in Honduras, the tortillas de harina definitely dominate. We make baleadas. We eat baleadas, which is basically a nice fresh tortilla de harina with frijoles, crema y queso. Y man, let me tell you something right now. I know in Mexico these tortillas are next level caliber. I actually just did my first nixtamalization with some really great grain, and you can taste and smell the difference. But yeah, in Honduras, coconut milk is used in flour tortillas, and it creates a flavor profile that's very, very unique and very delicious to me. So it's just, yeah, that's definitely something very special. All right, and so we'll take one more question here. What are your favorite uses for different day-old breads? Because I'm from New Orleans, you already know I'm trying to make some bread pudding. I love bread pudding. It's just one of my favorite things to make with leftover bread, French toast, you name it, croutons. There's so many different things that you can make with your day-old bread. So that's just a couple of examples. So there we go. Tons of other questions, guys. See a ton of other questions, and we're keeping it a little bit short today. So if you have more questions for me specifically, it's Artisan Bryan. Check out my page, shoot a DM, shoot an email, get to the blog, sign up for my newsletter. Very, very critical. Got a new newsletter, and it's every month going to be highlighting diverse voices, different stories, unique recipes exclusive to that newsletter. So make sure you're checking that out. And if you have more questions, don't hesitate. Leave a comment on my posts. Respond to my stories. Send a DM. Hit me up, and I will do my best to get back to you. All right. So that's what it is. I'm really, really thankful for the Beard Foundation to give me the opportunity to talk to you guys and to share with you, my thoughts, my inspiration, recipes that inspire me, how I kind of got started and where I'm headed. So that being said, I appreciate y'all, and I'll be talking to you guys very soon. Yep.